Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my channel, and today in this video we are going to look at how we can create a time tracker which in real time will track the time that you are spending on a ticket. For example, I'm on this ticket, and if I click on this play button, it will start a counter. It is creating a time entry, and if I show you my database, I'll go to my time entries. Right now I can see there are 25. The last one is with a started at, but there's no ends at, and the time is not shown over here. And after some time, when I click on this, it changes and the time is calculated. Now obviously I am doing a minimum of minute, so this is 0. However, you can see that it is showing that it is 5:41:09, and then this is 5:41:36. Okay, so this is the tracker widget that I'm going to create in this video, and I'll be very honest, this one is not going to be a test-driven development because I don't have so much experience with testing in Livewire. So we will first write our code, and then we will write the tests to back the code that we have written. And to be very honest, I will tell you one thing. In your development phase, you will encounter many such situations where it might be okay to write your code first because you might be still exploring certain things, and then you are writing your tests to back what you have written, and which is perfectly fine. What we are trying to at the end achieve is tests which are backing our code so that we are able to ship our code with confidence. So without wasting much time, let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is create a Livewire component called time tracker. So I'm going to execute this command, which is PA. In my case, it stands for PHP artisan. Make Livewire time tracker. You can also remove the name, and I'm sure prompt will come in. So I can do time tracker. Now it will ask you whether you want to make this an inline component. I'm going to say no. I don't want a test file right now, or maybe I'll create one. Later on I will see what tests we can write for that, or maybe no. I'll just start with no. Later on we will see. Okay, so we have our main PHP file and our blade file. All right. Now the question is, where do I show this component? Why don't we open up the issue view? That is going to be my GitLab issue view, because this is where I am showing the entire issue, right? This is a GitLab component. Let me still show you the data points if you are new to this series. So we have, okay, I have a ticket around, organizing the stuff where I have a project table and a projects table. This is wrong. I did that by mistake, but what I am looking at here is pages, issue, view. And in this view, somewhere over here, I am loading this GitLab issue view. And that is what that blade function is. Sorry, the blade file is. Now over here, I have this thing as play circle, but I am thinking, why don't we add that in the breadcrumb itself? So I'll just close this out. I'll open up the view, and maybe over here, I'll just do like this. So with this in place, I should have something, literally something over here, which is fine. So our component is being loaded over here. So now let's look at the implementation of the code. I'll go to my time tracker. Now something which I would need in my component as the properties are, first of all, the ID. This is going to be the ID over here because this is how I will understand which issue it is, because this time tracker is going to track time for an issue, and I want that issue ID. I'll need a property called started because it will control certain things in my state or the component. So it is going to be a boolean like so. Then I'll have a time entry, which is literally the model of time entry. And I'm making it optional because there will be certain times when the entry hasn't started, so the model would be empty. And I'll have something called as time elapsed, which is the exact string which will be shown as part of the counter. Now, I'm not doing this as a date time, but I'm declaring it as a string, which is completely fine. All right, so now the question is, how do we trigger the start of the time tracker? Well, what happens is in Livewire, we are able to raise events from the blade view, which will invoke a PHP function. And that is done by raising events. So when I am on the blade view, a JavaScript will be fired, and that JavaScript will be triggering something in the PHP world. And that is the whole beauty of Livewire components, because the front end and the back end works so seamlessly. So I'll have a function called Toggl tracker, which is going to get called when someone is clicking on that button, because the button will only have two states. It will continue to toggle. If it is started, then it will stop, and if it is stopped, then it will start. So I'll have this as a function over here. Now I would need to check whether the function is getting called when the button is clicked or not. So I'll open up my Laravel log file. I'll clean this up. Okay. And then I'll come to my time tracker. In here, I'll add some markup. All right. So I have this markup over here, which is basically that if I have started, then I will show the entry description and the elapsed time. I will calculate the elapsed time later on. And if I'm started, then I'll show the pause circle. Otherwise, I show a play circle. And on click of these spans, I'm dispatching an event, which is Toggl tracking, and I'm sending the ID. And over here, what I will do is I'll just copy this exact event name. Now, because we are sending an ID property over here, I will get that as a parameter. Okay, so when I do something like logger ID, I'll just close this out, go to my browser, hit refresh, click 1, 2, 3. Oh, nothing happened. Well, why? Toggl tracker. If started, else this. So play circle. Is there any error? Yes, there is. Unexpected token. Is there some additional thing that I have added? So I have this opening bracket and then a closing bracket for that. Is this only because of this? Let me quickly check. Yes, the error is gone. Now, wire click, dispatch ID. Oh, I know why. I have this ID, but I haven't created that ID as an mount function. And that is the reason I am getting this problem. And I'll show you what I mean by mount function. So what is happening is the component is loading. If you are coming from a React background or even from Vue, right, there are these life cycles of every component, and the component loads, it unloads, does certain things like the state is updated and those kind of stuff. So now I need to hook into that and Livewire, that is mount, and I need to define the ID, and that ID will be, now this is a patchwork. I'll just try to get that. So which is route current parameter issue because I know that's the issue ID. Okay. And if I do this, and yeah, everything is fine, refresh, I come over here once and it is still showing me an error. This shouldn't have happened. What is getting wrong over here? Unexpected token. If I hard code, will it still show me an error? No. So it is now, even the log will come. Yes, 11 is coming, which is fine. But then the question is why it didn't get the route current thing. So I'll just undo. Yes, let's eliminate route current parameter issue. Oh, okay. I'm doing a route model binding, so I think this is eliminate. No, this is the wrong one. That's why the current is creating a problem. Illuminate facades route. Will this work? This should have worked. So I have, what am I getting over here? Let me log that. ID is can be null. This is issue, not issues. I think that was the problem. Keeping my fingers crossed, and yes, this is working. So finally, with some typos, I had to spend a lot more time, and this is 14. So fine, we are in ship in regards to the ID, but this is obviously not what I want. What we have only seen is that when I'm clicking over here, an event is being fired, and that event is being listened by this function, which is a Livewire function, PHP function, which is doing a log. Okay, so far we have done only this. So now I'll have to write some code for us to check whether there is a time entry for that particular user, for that particular issue or not. Then I'll have to check, rather I'll have to create a method which starts the time entry and then a method which stops the time entry. So what I will do is create a service which will have these functions. Okay, so let's get started. I'll create, do I have a service? No. So I'll come over here, Livewire services. Okay, I already have a time entry service, so that's good for now. This is minutes to hours, add time entry. I'll call it for issue. And where is it getting used? Okay, this is something else. So maybe instead of start time entry, I'll do start time entry for issue. And this will be end time entry for issue. What we will do over here is issue equals issue find by ID. I'll pass this ID over here. And I'm expecting to return the time entry. So I got the issue. If I don't get the issue, I want this to be the Symfony HTTP exception. So the first one is status code 400, issue not found. But if I have the issue, But so I'll get the project where project ID equals issues project ID and the first entry. With that done, I'll create the time entry and that I'll return. User ID is this, and then I have other properties as well. Right. Now the client ID, like so. The issue title will become the description. Start time, I can keep it as 0 for now. Started at is now. And because we have the create, let's quickly also do the end time entry. So I'll have the ID with me. And what I will do is, so I'll call one method. Because I'll need this later on as well. Create this method. It will be public. I want this method because in my mount also I will need to understand whether the user already has an activity or not. Sorry, a time entry or not. So return time entry. Right. So my query is that give me the time entry where the user ID is the current user ID, or basically the user ID which is sent, but obviously I'm calling the current user ID. The ends at should be null because that means user has started it, the time entry, and I'm picking up the first. Now, which basically means it can be an optional time entry, because sometimes if the user has not started any time entry, then it will be null, right? So with that, if I don't get an entry, then I return true. I don't do anything else. I just return true in here. However, if I do get the entry, then I'll do an update. I'll do an end at, which is now, and then I'll put the time, update the time, carbon parse, the entries started at, difference in minutes, and then now. This will ensure that I update with the exact time. Okay. So all our three methods in this service is complete. Now let's go back to our time tracker. So inside the Toggl, first I will get my service. Like so. Then what I will do is over here, I'll get the time entry. I'll get the first entry, and if I don't find it, then I'll start. So I'll call the service start time entry for issue ID. I'll set the started at to true. That's my state. And I'll need to also do a little bit of thing like get the elapsed time and stuff like that. So rather what I will do is over here, create this init tracker with entry. I'll pass the time entry service to this. It's this. Okay. I'll need to create this method. And now in here, it's a void. What I'll do is very simply, if I find an entry for this user, okay, why is it saying no? Okay, because I haven't done a type hinting. Right. If I find that the user has this activity, okay, if this entry is found, what I will do is set this started at to true. I'll have the entry set to $entry and my elapsed time will be equal to carbon parse entry the started at diff now, and I'll set a format like this. And with that in place, I think I have done a mistake. Yes, this is how it should be. So let's see if at least I'm able to start the entry. Okay, I'll need to also check if I am printing the elapsed time, the descriptions and everything. Yeah. So with that, yes, it is giving me this thing. If I refresh, it goes away because on the mount function I haven't shown it, but I should have an incomplete time entry, which is correct. So how do I show the current running entry in here with the help of the mount function? Well, for that, what we will do is, again, I will have the service as an instance over here. I will first, as a safe thing, say that started is equal to false. If I don't find the route parameter, which means something is wrong, I will return, because the rest of the code depends on this value. Okay, so yeah, if I find the route and I have the issue ID, then what I will do is this ID is going to be this, which we had already done. And then I'll just do init time tracker with the service. So what it will do is it will check whether the user has the activity, has not activity per se. Yes, user has an activity or not. Why don't I say user has active entry? Maybe that is a little more. User has active entry. Okay. Yeah. So if the user has an active entry, it will put the started as true, entry it will populate, elapsed time it will populate, and now if you see, I have the time. Now whenever I refresh, it will show me the updated time, which is exactly what we wanted. On top of it, we are also getting our entry. So then, now this is quite useful. I am able to do this. Now what if I also want to update it on a real-time basis, right? Because Livewire has this poll method, which kind of polls the server at a fixed interval and it will re-render itself. So how do we get that feature? I'll just close the dev tab tools. We don't need that anymore. Okay. So for that, what I will do is, first of all, I will go to time tracker blade file. I'll get rid of, sorry. Is the log still on? No. Fine. In here, I will have wire poll 1 second, call a function called update toggle. Okay, messed up the spelling. With this, let me, I have my render, I have this, I'll add this function over here. Okay. Now what does this update toggle do? In here, what I will do is, if I don't find that the thing the time entry has started, I won't do anything. Okay, so if not $this started, and now you understand why I needed that flag, right? Because a lot of the behavior will depend on this flag. So if I don't find it, I'll return false. Okay, nothing else happens. But if I find that it has started, I just need to change the elapsed time. So I'll say this elapsed time equals carbon. Literally, I have the code over here. Okay. Yeah. How do I get the entry? I will get that using this entry, and that's why I took that inside a variable, a public variable, so that it is accessible to the blade file as well as internally. And now you can see I am getting an exact time entry, right? 5 minutes passed since we started it, and the clock is ticking. Interesting, isn't it? The only quick change which I'll need to do is search for this inside my file and change it with this. Replace 1. There should have been 2, right? So now at least my seconds are going to be 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2 rather than just the single numbers. Okay, fair enough. Now we have a toggle because whenever this button is clicked, whether it is a pause circle or a play circle, I am calling the toggle tracking function, or rather I'm dispatching an event called toggle tracking, which is being listened by this. In here, if I find the entry, I'm doing something. Sorry, if I don't find the entry, I'm doing something. What am I doing? I'm starting a time entry for that issue. But what if I find a new time entry? So in that case, what I'll have to do is stop that, right? So why don't we handle that situation? I'll have to call the service end time entry. Okay, that's why I had written that method for that particular service. With that done, my elapsed time will become an empty string because no more time to show right now. I will clean up my entry model as well so that no breadcrumbs are flying around from that model, and the started will be false. All right. So now if we have done everything correctly, now you can see the time is also showing 0506. Now if I pause, ideally the time entry goes away, and if I come over here, I have 7 minutes because I started at 12:43, which somehow went into the UTC. And for that, what I will right now do is app.php UTC. I'll make it Asia Kolkata so that it takes my time. I'll have to figure out what would be the exact thing to do. But yeah, if I now start, if I come over here and refresh, it is showing, yeah, 6:20:51. Right, so this is what I wanted to show you. This is how I created the entire functionality. I can go to any page. Now there are certain bugs. For example, if I go to projects and if I come over here, it will continue to show me the current tracker because this is from a different issue and I'm still seeing that, but obviously the description is from the correct issue. And if I go back, I can see that this is working, and obviously our time entry is calculated over here. So these basic features are in place. But yeah, that's about it. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. If you like this video, then do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.